Welcome to the deep dive. We take pieces of information that seem totally separate, maybe even random.
Right, and we dig in to see if there are, surprising connections hidden underneath.
Exactly. And today, we've got quite a mix. We're looking into a really old missing child case, decades old, with this one strange clue.
And then there's this unbelievable story about a con artist. I mean, really unbelievable. He fooled the FBI.
Yeah, for years.
Eh.
And rounding it out, a pretty disturbing case involving a serial killer who left, well, poems.
Chilling stuff. And we've sort of gone through all the details to pull out the key bits for you.
Think of it as like a quick way to get the essence of these stories and maybe what they tell us.
So yeah, let's jump in.
Okay, first thoughts. Could a little kid's words, something maybe dismissed at the time, actually solve a decades-old mystery?
And how does someone, without any real background, trick an agency like the FBI for so long?
Right. And what makes a killer leave clues, like artistic clues, almost daring someone to find them?
Big questions. Let's start unpacking them. First up, that cold case. It's taken some really unexpected turns lately.
Okay, so this one takes us back. It's 1994, Idaho. A 6-year-old boy, Michael Vaughn, disappears.
Yeah, from his own backyard. And for years, well, pretty much silence, which is sadly common,
Yeah.
No real solid evidence.
Just heartbreaking dead ends. But then, almost 30 years later, something surfaces.
Something really small, almost. Michael's sister, she recently remembered his last words to her.
What were they?
She said he told her, "The blue lady is watching me."
The Blue Lady. Wow. Okay, that's cryptic. And easy to maybe overlook back then.
Totally. In all the chaos and panic, who knows? But now, looking back, well, it's starting to look significant.
So what changed? Why is this coming up now in 2024?
Two things, really. First, someone found an old Polaroid photo in a thrift store.
Okay.
And it shows a little boy who looks a lot like Michael. And get this, he's wearing blue mittens.
Blue mittens. Okay, wait, Blue Lady? Blue mittens? That feels connected somehow.
Yeah. It feels like more than a coincidence, right? But then there's the second part. Forensic analysis. Looking into that blue lady phrase.
Yeah.
They think it might actually refer to a local mural painted in 1993, the year before Michael vanished.
A mural called The Blue Lady. Or featuring one.
Something like that. And here's the kicker. The artist who painted that mural,
Let me guess.
he's currently in prison for child abduction.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
That's huge. The mural, the timing, the artist's history, and the blue mittens.
It all starts to converge, doesn't it? Could the mittens be linked to the mural, to the artist? Was this phrase, the blue lady, a clue Michael was giving?
It really makes you think about cold cases, how, you have to keep looking at old details with fresh eyes. New info.
Exactly. And maybe talk to witnesses again, even years later. Memories are strange things.
Which brings us to the sister. Why remember this now, after all this time?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Was it buried deep down? Did something trigger it? Or did she just not realize its importance back then?
Investigators must be looking really closely at the timing of that memory surfacing.
Absolutely. So the big takeaway here, I think,
Yeah.
it's just how crucial it is to revisit everything. No detail is too small, maybe. The mittens, the mural, the artist. It's a disturbing picture, but it's a new lead.
And it makes you wonder, how many other cases have these little overlooked things just waiting?
It's a sobering thought. Okay, should we shift gears?
Yeah, let's. From that kind of heartbreaking mystery to, well, something almost comical, if it weren't so serious. Deception on a grand scale.
This is the story of Richard Wallace.
Oh.
And it's pretty wild. He was a high school dropout.
Okay.
And he managed to successfully pretend he was an FBI cybercrime agent.
Pretend. For how long? A few weeks?
Try 8 years.
8 years? No way. How? How is that even possible?
Audacity seems to be the key word. Sheer, unadulterated nerve. And his methods, surprisingly low-tech in some ways.
Like what? Fake badges?
He forged FBI letterhead over 100 different times, apparently.
100? Okay, so he's creating this paper trail of legitimacy.
Exactly. And then he used these fake letters to launch his own investigations into huge companies, Fortune 500 level.
Wait, he investigated companies as the FBI?
Sort of. Then he'd bill them for his consulting services.
You build them, and they paid.
Apparently so. It just shows you, doesn't it? Put something on official-looking paper, people tend to believe it, or at least not question it enough.
That's incredible. But it gets worse, right?
Oh, yeah. It gets much worse. He didn't just fool corporations.
Oh, well.
He actually tricked real, actual FBI agents into giving him sensitive case information.
You're kidding. How?
He'd just call up, claim he was from the director's office, sound important, sound like he should have access.
And they just told him stuff. Confidential details.
Seems like it. It really highlights the importance of verifying things internally, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even within the Bureau itself. Trust but verify.
Wow. Okay, so 8 years of this. Forging letters, billing companies, getting info from actual agents. What finally tripped him up? It had to be something big, right?
You'd think so after all that, but no, it was almost vanity.
Vanity.
He assigned himself a medal, a fake Medal of Honor.
He gave himself a medal.
Yeah.
And that's what exposed him.
Yep. That was the detail that finally unraveled the whole thing. It's kind of darkly funny, in a way. His ego tripped him up.
After all that complex deception. A fake medal.
Wow.
So he went to prison.
He did. Served 3 years. But here's the twist.
Here's another twist.
What do you think Richard Wallace does now?
I have no idea. Laying low somewhere.
Nope. He works with corporations, training them on fraud prevention.
Get out. The guy who conned the FBI for 8 years is now teaching companies how not to get conned.
That's the story. Genius or just deeply ironic?
I don't even know what to say to that. It's certainly a conversation starter. Maybe you need a con artist to catch one or prevent one.
It's definitely unconventional expertise, isn't it? Using that insider knowledge of deception for, well, good, supposedly. It forces you to think.
It really does. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's move from ironic twists to something much, much darker.
Yeah. This next one it's disturbing. We're heading to California, early 2000s. Between 2001 and 2004,
What happened?
a serial killer was active, 4 victims, and the killer left a very specific, very unusual signature.
Signature. Like a symbol?
Not exactly. He carved haikus into the victim's skin.
Wait, haikus. The Japanese poetry form. 5, 7, 5 syllables.
That's the one carved onto the victims. It's
Yeah, deeply unsettling.
The contrast is just jarring. Poetry and such brutality. So he was like signing his crimes.
In a way, yes. A very specific artistic signature. We even know one of them.
What'd it say?
Winter moonlit nights I walk alone. No shadow.
Chilling. Just absolutely chilling. And investigators found these.
They found them, yes. But initially they were sort of overlooked.
Overlook. How do you overlook something like that? Well, in the middle of a violent crime scene, maybe the focus is just elsewhere. Forensics, DNA, the immediate evidence. Maybe the poetry seems like a bizarre but ultimately meaningless detail at first.
I guess that makes sense in the chaos. So when did they realize it was more?
Much later, 2023 actually, a linguist got involved.
A linguist, okay.
And the linguist noticed something incredible. Hidden in plain sight, the syllable count.
The 575.
Well, the total syllables in each haiku, they weren't just random numbers. They corresponded directly to the dates of the murders.
Lord.
Like, if a murder happened on December 5th, that's 125. The haiku might have 12 syllables in the first line, 5 in the second. Or maybe the total syllable count matched the date numerically somehow, like 37 for March 7th.
Whoa. Okay, that changes everything. That's not random. That's a code.
Exactly. A deliberate coded message left by the killer. It really shows how you sometimes need different kinds of experts, like a linguist, to see patterns others miss.
Absolutely. And what about that line, no shadow? Did that mean anything?
Chillingly, yes. They figured it out. All the victims. They were left directly underneath streetlights.
So, there literally was no shadow because of the direct light.
Precisely. The level of planning, the calculation, it's horrifying.
It really is. So what's the thinking now? Was he just taunting the police with these codes?
That's one theory. But there's another, maybe even more unsettling idea. That maybe on some level, he wanted to be caught. That leaving these clues, these poetic breadcrumbs in his, gruesome artwork,
was maybe a subconscious way of leading them to him, seeking recognition, even capture.
It's a possibility, isn't it? The psychology there is so complex, so dark. Was it narcissism, a cry for help hidden in violence? We might never know for sure.
Yeah, it's a truly chilling thought. That need to create, even in horror, may be linked to a desire to be found out.
It adds a whole other layer to understanding criminal minds, doesn't it?
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
So let's just quickly recap these 3 very different deep dives.
We had the cold case, Michael Vaughn, where a child's words, the blue lady, and a thrift store photo with blue mittens might finally connect to a mural and its jailed artist after decades.
Yeah, showing how tiny details can suddenly become huge. Then, Richard Wallace, the FBI impersonator.
Right. 8 years of sheer audacity, fooling corporations and even agents only to be caught by a fake medal. And now, teaching fraud prevention. The irony.
Highlighting how vulnerable even secure systems can be to simple, bold deception. And finally, the poet of pain.
The serial killer using haikus, coded with dates, leaving victims under streetlights, possibly hinting at a subconscious wish to be caught through his own macabre art.
Forcing us to think about the really complex, dark motivations that can drive people.
So these stories, they seem all over the place, right? A missing kid, a con man, a killer.
Yeah, totally unrelated on the surface.
But they all kind of touch on these weird, unsettling parts of life, don't they? Hidden meanings, vulnerability, dark psychology.
They really do. The missing child case shows how meaning can hide in plain sight for years. The con man, how easily trust can be exploited. The killer, the twisted logic that can exist.
And it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah. What else is out there? What other clues are just sitting there in plain sight in other mysteries, waiting for someone to look at them the right way?
And what does that say about us? About how well we actually see the truth around us?
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us on